Hi there, it's Richard here. So in this video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how you can use high intensity interval timers or HIIT timers in your practice. Now, some of you may have seen this in my webinar, but for those who haven't, I'll run through it again. So what is an interval timer? Well, essentially it's a device that's used to set and keep track of specific time intervals. It's one of those things where the clue is really in the name. So I'm just going to read this bit out because it's easier. Typically, they work by allowing you to program specific time intervals, which are then signalled with an audible or visual alarm once they've elapsed. They are commonly used in sports, training and workout routines where specific intervals of work and rest are required. You can set them to repeat the same intervals multiple times or alternate between different intervals. So it occurred to me some time ago that they could be utilised in drum practice, which in a way can be a little bit like a workout, especially if you're practicing rudiments or other patterns where speed and stamina are important. So in the link included, you can access an interval timer which I've already set up. Now it's a 10-minute timer with intervals of 1 minute for high intensity work, each separated by 20 seconds for rest. And this is how it works. So we've got a little play button here and I'll play that. It will count down 5 seconds, which is just to give you enough time to get to the drum kit. And then we'll be in the high intensity phase for 1 minute. So let's see what happens. Okay, so now we're counting down. We've got a minute countdown until we get to our 20 seconds of rest. So I'm just going to keep talking for a bit. The thing is, what I really want to stress is that this is potentially a very powerful and effective method of practicing, providing you don't forget everything you've learned about technique in pursuit of speed. So hold your sticks correctly. Relax your shoulders and arms and make sure your wrists are loose. And another thing, don't bury the stick in the drum head. Always let that stick rebound off the head. And if you do that, if you do all those things, you should be able to start developing a good tempo when it comes to your rudiments. So it's just about to finish off here with the minute interval, and now it's going to go to the 20 seconds. There we go. So we've got 20 seconds until we're back into a high intensity workout. So in this 20 seconds, you can just shake your arms around a little bit, relax and prepare for the next minute, which will be coming up any second now. There we go. And we're into another minute. I'm just going to press pause now so that doesn't go off again. So you should easily be able to come up with 8 things to practice using this method. But I want to give you an idea just to get you started. So let me just click out of this screen. And here we've got a really simple plan that you could use with an interval timer. So starts off with 1 minute of single stroke rolls starting with the right hand, and then 1 minute single stroke roll starting with the left hand. If you've never tried that before, you might find it a little bit tricky. The reason we do that is because we want to work on the weaker hand as well as the dominant hand. So for example, if your right hand is your dominant hand, then practicing with starting a roll with your left hand is going to be beneficial because it won't be used to that. And the same thing here, we've got a double stroke roll starting with the right hand and then a double stroke roll starting with the left hand. So again, trying to make your weaker hand do a bit of work by having to lead the rhythm. Then we've got a single paradiddle starting with the right hand and then a paradiddle around the kit. So your choice means basically whichever drums you want to try and play it on, but you could move it around, maybe first tom, second tom, snare drum, floor tom. There's various ways you can move the paradiddle around. Then we've got 1 minute 8th note backbeat on the hi-hats. So again, the whole point of all of this is to try and push up the tempo a little bit. So when you're playing your eighth note hi-hats, try and push that along a little bit. Play it faster than you would normally. It's possibly going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. There are techniques you can incorporate, but I would, for the moment, just concentrate on trying to stay relaxed and trying to keep your wrist loose and just be really conscious of that while you're playing. Then finally, we've got 1 minute of alternation between the bass drum and the snare drum. So that is literally just playing a bass drum and a snare drum, a bass drum and a snare drum, and just going backwards and forth like that as fast as you can. And I promise you, if you've never done that before, you will find it quite difficult. So that's just an idea. You could come up with your own. Definitely make a list of eight rudiments that you want to practice using a high intensity interval timer, and see how you get on. And the other thing is, you can use this maybe as a warm up in your practice, but you could also incorporate it in different ways, or you could use you could actually make different interval timers. So you could have one that's where the intervals are maybe 5 minutes, so longer intervals. You might want to consider doing that if you're kind of practicing ideas, but you don't necessarily want to spend the whole session going over them. So it will just remind you to stop and move on to something else. There's different ways you can do it, basically. But the real emphasis is that you work on developing your stamina and developing speed. So those are the two things I think this kind of practice can really help with. So make it part of your daily routine. As I said, it's potentially a very powerful way to practice, as long as you remember your technique and try and apply that. You should make some good progress with it.